want to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Noor, and I am a fellow at the Critical Thinking Unit at the Ayan Hirsi Ali Foundation. And this is the program that has allowed me to host such remarkable people, Masih Alinejad and Faisal Saeed Al Mutar. And without further ado, I'll give you guys a little bio about them and we can get started. So first, Faisal Saeed Al Mutar is an Iraqi-American human rights activist, writer, and satirist who was admitted to the United States as a refugee in 2013. He is a founder of Global Conversations currently runs his nonprofit Ideas Beyond Borders. And this is a partner of the program that I am in, the Critical Thinking Unit. So next, of course, we have Masih Alinejad, which is a remarkable Iranian journalist and activist. And in 2014, she spearheaded a Facebook page called My Stealthy Freedom to protest Iran's compulsory public hijab law for women and girls. And Masih is just an amazing person. She's done a lot through her contracts through the US Agency for Global Media, and she works as a presenter and producer for VOA Persian service. But I will not do all the talking. I will now transition this over to Faisal, and he will continue on. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Hannah, and thank you for choosing me to interview Masih and have a conversation. I mean, for me, the subject of Iran is not, the country of Iran, the subject of Iran is definitely not foreign to me. I was born in Iraq, so that's the neighboring country. And I mean, there are three things that I always think about when I think about Iran. I think of Qasem Soleimani and Ayatollah Khamenei and Khorram Sabzi. So these are the the combo of my relationship with that country, and probably in that order. And really, what I think is interesting about Masih's work and is really kind of the focus on the people. And generally, Iran is generally viewed the prism of politics, the prism of foreign politics and Middle Eastern politics. But I think what is really important about Masih's work, and I've been following it for years, is really showing the people of Iran, and mainly the women of Iran, and really the things that they face as individuals living in a society that's ruled by theocrats. So I would like to get the politics first, because I know you wanted to touch on that, and then I will start with the personal and really about your work, because the Iranian elections are coming. So that's happening in the month of June, in the next couple of weeks. And I'm sure many people are interested to hear your thoughts on what's going on.
Of course. Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure for me being with you. But let me make it clear that Khorram Sabzi is very popular in Iran. Soleimani and Khamenei, wait a minute. These are not popular in Iran, in Iraq, in Lebanon. There were massive protests in the region. And the main slogan for people in Lebanon, in Iraq, and Iran protest was death to Khamenei and death to Khamenei. There was nothing about Khorram Sabzi. We are not against Khorram Sabzi. So yes, the media in the West are very interested to hear about election in Iran. But I want to actually tell you that for me, talking about election, it's like, okay, for not just me, for women in Iran, talking about election and participating in the election, it's like a joke. I'm going to tell you why. Because as a woman, I don't have the right to choose what I want to wear. I don't have the right to ride a bicycle. I don't have the right to enter a stadium. I don't have the right to have the custody of my child. I don't even have the right to get a passport without permission from my husband. I don't have the right to sing. Can you believe that? To sing solo. I have a good voice. I'm going to sing for you at the end.
I'm familiar.
But suddenly, in such country, I have been given the right to choose a president. So isn't that I mean, it's ridiculous. So that is why I always say that for a woman whose rights have been taken away from the age of 7 because of the Sharia law in the Islamic Republic, participating in election is like legitimizing those who oppress you. It's like voting for your own oppressors. So that is why, yes, the media want to talk about like election, but there is a massive protest which people trying to actually express themselves and telling the rest of the world that why they are boycotting the election. Recently, there are so many different grassroots movement. One of the most popular ones started from the families of the victims, the families of those people who got killed, executed, tortured to death by the Islamic Republic in 40 years. And these people got united, like mothers, you know, made a video of themselves, fathers who lost their beloved one. They got united to say, we are not going to legitimize such a regime. And of course, all the correspondents in Iran, they will get kicked out from different countries who are, they are in Iran right now, if they want to criticize like the supreme leader of Iran or talking about some red lines in Iran. So for me, it's clear that I'm not going to vote for my own oppressors. I don't have any interest in this election, especially after 2009, when more than 100 people got killed because of asking, where is my vote? And in 2 massive protests, especially last November, more than 1,500 people got killed, and there is no justice right now. And most important than this, I'm going to just make longer story short.
Yeah, because I have a follow-up question. Because I'm really interested, why do they make that exception? I mean, I know that, for example, some Iraqi politics, which are affiliated with Iran, they do women to actually participate in the parliament, and mainly, I think, for optical reasons. So in that way, they tell the West and mainly US aid grant officers that, look, we have women participation in the government. So you think this is a similar reason there? What do you think is the...
That's a very good point. Look, I remember that our vice president, the female vice president, came to United Nations with some members of parliament, female members of parliament. And that was a huge headline for some media in the West, saying that, look, women are in power, but those women who are in power, they came to United Nations, they have to get permission from their husband to travel abroad. They don't have the control of what's over their body. So, and actually the regime using this to show it to the rest of the world that, look, we have women participating in the top, but we don't have female ministers. Before the revolution 40 years ago, we had female ministers, we had female judges, but now women are not allowed to be judged in Iran. And I want to tell you another example that about how the West, how they're trying to actually sell it to the West. And they're quite successful. The Islamic Republic is quite successful because recently, as you heard, the UN actually elected the Islamic Republic for the UN's top women's body. And I was shocked. It's like putting ISIS in charge to monitor human rights globally. So, because women's rights situation in Iran, like right now that I'm talking to you, more than 50 women are in prison. So how come you put their prison, these people in charge to monitor human rights globally? So this is ridiculous.
Another follow-up question is like, how did that, how do you think that happened? Like, how did Iran end up at the, I think it's the Human Rights Council, the women's body of the Human Rights Council? I mean, it is amazingly absurd. Where do you think this absurdity come from? Is there a backstory there?
Yeah, they have their own way to convince even the European countries. I have to say that at least there are 4 European countries voted for Iran. And actually, I asked all media And I call on the human rights organization to find out, do an investigation and find out who these 4 countries are, how they voted for Iran. You know, they want to have business with Iran. They want to have negotiation with Iran. And they think that they have to legitimize this regime, then they can have their own benefit. It's all about, you know, nuclear deal. It's all about having business with Iran. So that is why sometimes they easily bury human rights under any kind of political agenda, which is, you know, the whole world should be aware of that and talk about this loudly. But unfortunately, the world is now just, you know, they keep silent. I have to say that the US government, it was late, but at least they came out and they condemned that. But we don't need empty words, you know. We need something in action. We need free countries. We need the European countries to legitimize the civil society in Iran and talk about this loudly, not just, you know, in theory or like, as I said, not in empty words. We need them to recognize the civil society in Iran and not just condemn that. Do an investigation about human rights abuse in Iran.
That I totally agree. Action more important than words. And maybe actually that will be the last political question before I get to about your work. I mean, there was this article on the New York Times, which I think runs in contrast to most of your work, that talks about really the oppression of forced hijab in Iran, etc. That I believe the summary of it, that is not really much of a big deal. Do you think that's another form of legitimization of the Iranian regime? I mean, this Times is the United States, or at least media, one of the most well-known media places in the United States. So do you think that's also part of the same trend that it's about the political deals and the Iran deal, etc.?
That is beyond sad. That a 20 years old women's rights activist, Sabah Kordafshari, is in prison just because of removing their hijab, peacefully protesting against compulsory hijab. And then you refer to the article in New York Times, which I think it was written by an Iranian journalist, unfortunately, saying that this is part of our culture, and saying that it's became now like a fashion. I have to say, this is like patronizing Iranian women. This is an insult to Iranian women. And sometimes it really breaks my heart when I often get this question from Westerners, from like human rights organization, asking the same question that you asked, saying that, but how come some Iranian journalists or activists saying that hijab is part of Iranian culture and do not make it a big fuss of it? I have to say that compulsory hijab is the main pillar of the religious dictatorship. And if you don't wear hijab from the age of 7, you won't be able to go to school. You won't be able to get an education. If you don't wear it, you won't be able to get a job, to get any kind of, like, you know, driving license, any kind of ID. You won't exist. More important than this, it's not saying that, you know, the slogan in the West, my body is my choice. And some people say, oh, this is nothing important, you know, this is a small issue. And this is, you know, no, this is not. This is about oppression. And when we talk about compulsory hijab, we are talking about the most visible symbol of oppression. So I have to say that a lot of women inside Iran, they're furious when they see that some Islamic lobbyists or some apologists trying to patronize their cause and their fight and legitimizing a discriminatory law. I want to just give you one more example. Imagine in America, just imagine, in America, the government beaten up a hijabi woman and kick her out from university. Just imagine a woman being beaten up, get kicked out from university in America. What would be the reaction of all feminists around the world? What would be the reaction of all journalists, especially those who write for New York Times? They will get mad. They will get furious and they will condemn it. This is all we need. Because right now, that I'm talking to you, 6 women of White Wednesday's campaign are in prison. They're so brave. They actually send an audio message from prison saying that we don't regret. We are actually bringing change within the society, and we want the rest of the world to legitimize our fight, not legitimizing our oppressors. And that's it. That's all I can say. They are betraying their own sisters, those who legitimizing compulsory hijab.
And speaking of which, so you're dealing with all of these. I mean, it looks like you have a lot of battles. So you have between the oppressors in Iran, you have human rights groups that deny all of the oppression that you're talking about, and other states. So really, my question is a bit kind of personal, is that really with all of that toll that is taken on you, what really motivates you in the morning? What gets you awake to actually continue the fight that you're fighting? I know a lot of people simply because as a result of a lot of that pressure, they just simply give up. Like, that is too much. I'm getting a lot of criticism, which I'm going to talk about in the next couple of questions in terms of the challenges and that I did my own investigation. So really, what keeps you going?
That's actually a very good question, because as you mentioned beautifully, I have to fight with our own oppressors in the Islamic Republic of Iran. And at the same time, I cannot believe that I have to fight with some people who live in the West, enjoy the freedom in the West, and they have the right to choose any kind of lifestyle they want, and they try to patronize us. They try to actually support the Islamic Republic rather than those who are fighting against the Islamic Republic. Oh, another thing which I'm going to actually tell you, for me, we have been fighting against Revolutionary Guards, because the Revolutionary Guards in Iran beating up people in the streets, killing this Iranian dissidents inside and outside Iran, butchering Iranian oppositions outside Iran. Qasem Soleimani was the top on Quds Revolutionary Guards. Okay. And guess what happened? At the same time, we have to fight against some of the Westerners who call Qasem Soleimani a hero. So it's not just about hijabs that some people legitimizing it outside Iran. It's not about compulsory hijab. It is about legitimizing the whole regime. It is about legitimizing ISIS. So of course you get furious. Of course, as you said, that you have to find energy every day to fight both sides. So for me, the only thing that gives me this motivation, it's just, grassroots movement. It's like every day when I wake up, every morning, I receive videos from people inside Iran risking their lives and challenging the regime. I live here in America, which my dream is to be in my own country. But those women inside Iran, they're facing true threats, death threats. They're facing torture. They get arrested in being forced to do false confession, like as I mentioned about Sabah Kordafshari, Yasaman Aryani, Soheila Hijab. There are a lot of them, young women risking their lives, and they're in prison. So especially when they get out of prison, I see that they're still brave. They didn't give it up. So that gives me motivation to fight against the Islamic Republic and those who are legitimizing the same regime. And I want to tell you another example which gives me hope. Look, I see the suffragists, the fight, women from suffragists, they paid a lot of price. To me, women's rights activists inside Iran are like women in suffragists. It's like these women, to me in Iran, they're like Rosa Parks. And so that gives me hope that in the history, there are many women who sacrificed their lives and put themselves in danger. And that is why many women in the West now, enjoying their freedom. So women inside Iran, to me, are like Rosa Parks, and they're giving me hope. Especially, I want to give you example about those mothers inside Iran. Every day I wake up with, I receive videos from mothers, so brave. The government killed their sons, their daughters, their beloved one. And they all have like white hair, their hair trying to be gray. You see the pain. You're from Iraq and you understand when I talk about the pain that you can read from the eyes of those mothers. They like carry the wounds of, oppressions on their body, on their shoulders. And I'm in touch with these mothers. They're full of hope. And the government actually now trying to arrest them, to keep them silent, threatening that your other children might get killed. Like they bravely say no to Islamic Republic. And I tell myself every morning that if they are brave, like we're inside Iran, in front of the guards, or revolutionary guards, saying no to Islamic Republic, then I should be their voices. I mean, I have to be. This is my duty to be their voices. And that's why I don't care about nasty messages. I don't care about, being bullied on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, or receiving death threats, because I have only one life. And I want to dedicate my life to give voice to voiceless people inside Iran, in the Middle East, not just Iran.
Is this movement growing? I mean, you mentioned the word ISIS a couple of times, and I'm very familiar, considering that they took 1/3 of Iraq. And one of the things that ISIS really caused is a great reaction, especially among the youth, to theocracy, to fundamentalism, to religious fundamentalism in particular. And that movement keeps growing.
Yes.
Because it's like kind of building up organically. Is this the same happening in Iran? Is that the movement that is saying no to the theocracy of the Ayatollahs? Are they also growing in numbers?
Oh, definitely. I'm gonna give you one example. Then it's just unbelievable. For years and years, it was women running away from morality police in Iran. Right now, if you just go through my camera, hashtag my camera is my weapon, you will understand that how it's growing. This time, it's the morality police trying to run away from women. And because of the power of the camera, women were like filming at the same time with the morality police trying to arrest it, women filming the morality police inside the van. And that actually shows you how the movement is growing and how making women to be more powerful. I want to tell you that in 2014, when I launched My Stealthy Freedom campaign, people were patronizing us, mocking us. They didn't take us serious. They were actually using the hijab as it's like an order from God or part of the culture. But now the media inside Iran, even the Iranian TV, they use the term compulsory hijab. And I was like, wow, that's the power of women. In another example, when the government arrested young women for not wearing hijab and protesting against hijab, you know what happened? Their mothers came out and joined them.
Wow.
And I still get goosebumps. When Yasaman and Sabah got arrested, their mother just came out. They took their headscarf, they walked unveiled, and they said, now we are the voice of our daughters. So as I mentioned, this is not just about like a small piece of cloth. When I talk about compulsory hijab, I mean, obviously, I'm talking about the main pillar of a religious dictatorship. You remember when women got free from ISIS?
Yes, that famous picture when the woman take it, yeah.
And they, some of the women, they burned the compulsory
the
burqa. Why? Because this is a symbol. And I want to tell you that to me, compulsory hijab is like Berlin Wall. It's the Berlin Wall. When you tear this wall down, then the religious dictatorship will be gone. That is why I'm telling you that this movement is growing within the society, because now more men joining us, like those women who believe in hijab, they join us and they walk shoulder to shoulder with their daughters being unveiled and supporting them. I'm going to tell you another thing, which is, I like it. This is the bright side of the movement. I remember when like in the Western media, when they were meeting Javad Zarif or our president, the president of the Islamic Republic, they were like not talking about hijab because they thought this is, part of the culture. They didn't want to touch the issue.
The untouchable subject, yeah.
Exactly. Not, they don't want to cause Islamophobia. So they were silent about that. But guess what? Two journalists, French journalists, they took a picture from our campaign. They confronted Hassan Rouhani, the president of Iran, and saying that, how do you feel when you see these women are removing their hijab and saying we don't want to be forced to wear it? Hassan Rouhani is the main, the main person who actually imposed hijab on women.
Interesting. And he brands himself as the reformist, kind of more moderate.
Exactly. He was the main architect of compulsory hijab according to his own memoir. So he wrote on his memoir that when I imposed hijab on women were nagging. He called those protests nagging. And he said, I was firm enough. I said to the guard, if these women, refuse to wear it, then kick them out. So two journalists outside Iran confronted him with photos, which I'm going to send it to you, and saying, how do you feel? He laughed nervously. And that day I said, yes, we won the battle. You kick me out from Iran. You put compulsory hijab like a red line. Nobody can ask a question inside Iran. And outside Iran, you called it part of our culture because of Islamophobia. Nobody talks about it. But now, through ordinary women, you are forced to answer these questions. And that shows you the power of ordinary women, that how they get together and then they are stronger.
Which, I mean, it's also a power of successful journalism and successful activism for the part of the West, which brings me to the question is that how do you think, the example of the two journalists confronting the Iranian regime is a great example. How do you think people who are like within the media, within academia, what should they do? Is there anything
I love your question. I love this question. You know why? Because this is our dream. To make the Western journalists understand, we want to have the same dignity. When you say that, let's not talk about women's rights, like compulsory hijab inside Iran, because this is an internal matter and women in the Middle East should deal with it. It's like you're patronizing our cause, or you're downplaying our cause. You're actually legitimizing the regime by not talking about how they oppress people. And I want to give you one example. I met Barbara Slavin in a conference, and she works for Atlantic. And when I was talking about my campaign, when I was talking about the risk that women take to protest against the Islamic Republic and removing their hijab, I wanted to hear from her that how brave these women are, how we can help you. Instead, she just, stood up and she said that, you know what, hijab is not a big deal. Now this became fashion, and, and I was like, we're not talking about fashion. We're not talking about compulsory hijab as part of like our lifestyle. We are talking about our dignity. And I asked her that, would you wear hijab for 1 hour and sit in a conference? And she said, no. So you don't accept this for yourself. Then why? You don't ask and you don't challenge Javad Zarif when you meet him. And I see that some of the activists outside Iran, they wear hijab and they take picture with Javad Zarif. And you ask them that why you wear it. They said, because this is a law. And when we go to the embassy outside Iran, we have to wear it. Of course, this is a law. But women inside Iran breaking this bad law. Women inside Iran, it's like challenging such a discriminatory laws. But you are safe outside Iran. A journalist, a female journalist outside Iran, sitting with Javad Zarif in New York, wearing hijab. And this is not an option. Because if it was an option, then you have to wear it every day in New York. So you wear it because you want to please Javad Zarif. And that breaks my heart. Because I know you have the power as a journalist in New York to ask Javad Zarif that why right now, like, women are in prison just because of not wearing this small piece of cloth as you think is small.
And,
So
and,
I
and
want
you see the double standard, right? If they are meeting
See.
with the foreign minister of Denmark, they wouldn't wear the Danish, I don't know, the Danish traditional clothing. They would, but when you, so in a way, as you're saying, it's like it's a way of legitimizing the regime.
Yes,
And really accepting that this is as a reality. Oh, we have to live with it, and it is what it is, and we have
it's
to.
not. You know, women in the Middle East deserve the same freedom. By doing this, actually, it's a racist action to me, because you're saying that, okay, this is an issue for women in the Middle East. This is their culture. This is an insult to our culture, because before the revolution, we were free to choose what we wanted to wear. How come? Forcing a 7-year-old girl to wear hijab, you call this part of our culture? This is unbelievable. And I want to give another example to journalists in the Western media. When burkini ban happened in France, when Muslim ban happened in America, the whole world condemned that. Nobody said that, okay, let's Muslim women deal with it in France or in America. But how come when it comes to Iran, you keep silent? How come? So this is hypocrisy, you know? And another example, listen, I cannot even believe that. Imagine there is a tournament which happened, the tournament, international chess tournament, which happened to be in America. So imagine the American government says that women are allowed to participate in this international tournament if they remove their hijab. So Muslim women will be kicked out from this tournament. What would be the reaction of New York Times, CNN, and journalists around the world, human rights activists? Tell me, what would be the reaction? We all go and support our Muslim sister. No, this is their right to participate in this tournament. Nobody can force them to remove their hijab. That's going to be the point. But right now, it's unbelievable. That happened in Iran. The chess tournament happened, international chess tournament happened to be in Iran. One American chess champion said that, I don't want to be forced to wear hijab. New York Times attacked her. Not New York Times, I'm going to correct myself. The journalist wrote an article, Iranian journalist, Iranian, I cannot even call them journalist or activist. They wrote an article for Guardian, for New York Times, attacking Nazi Pockets, the American chess champion, that why you don't wear hijab and you don't go to Iran. You know, it was just unbelievable. It's like telling a Muslim athlete that remove your hijab to empower, you know, other women. No, she believes in hijab and she wants to wear it. So you actually patronizing your own sister, betraying your own sister, rather than forcing the government, saying that you are not allowed to force women to wear hijab. So you see, this is the history, honestly, will judge this global feminist movement if they keep silent. But I have to see the positive side as well. Right now, many feminists around the world recognizing the fight of women inside Iran against religious dictatorship, they're joining us and they're trying to show their support and solidarity, which I am pleased and I really appreciate that.
That's great to hear. As we're working now to the criticism that I have seen that put at you, and I think is that it is probably common that you get every day. But one of the main thing that I've noticed that some people say about you is that you are helping with the spread of Islamophobia inside the West, and you are spreading the myth that Muslim women are oppressed, and in their word, myth is that Muslim women are oppressed, and while women have the right to choose what they want, that they're not oppressed. So how do you respond to that? And I'm sure you have seen that tweet multiple times on your feed. So it wasn't hard to find.
Definitely. I actually got attacked by a man in the airport in London, saying that you're ruining the reputation of Muslim country, you're ruining the reputation of Iran, you're causing Islamophobia, you are an ugly woman. And from the beginning, I got very panicked because he was on my face and attacking me. And I told him that, look, this is not me ruining the image of Iran, the reputation of a Muslim country. These are the Sharia laws. I'm not causing Islamophobia. How come that the laws lashes women if they remove their hijab? The laws executed Muslim people if they say that I don't want to be Muslim anymore. The law lashes you if you drink alcohol. The laws, kill you if you criticize Prophet Muhammad. These are not ruining the image of Islam or ruining the image of Iran. These are not causing fear, but me protesting against these oppressive laws causing Islamophobia. I said that, and the man was not actually convinced. So, and I didn't know what to do, but I was like, I ran after him and I said, hey, look, you called me ugly, but I'm not ugly. Tell that in front of my camera. And I asked him to say that in front of my camera. He couldn't say it. But unfortunately, we see that a lot of journalists saying that on live show and different TV broadcasting and different media, that those who are fighting against Sharia laws causing Islamophobia. And this is totally wrong, because as a woman living under Sharia laws all my life, I have the right to be scared of Sharia laws. You know why? Because those laws are against my dignity and my existence. Of course, I'm scared of those laws. Phobia is irrational fear, but my fear is rational because I'm scared. Every morning with the prayer call, when I hear Allahu Akbar in Iran, in my country, people get executed because of criticizing the regime, because of criticizing the religion. I shouldn't be scared when I hear that. I don't really understand that right now there are many people in jail. One of them, Amir Hossein Moradi, he's in jail just because of joining Iran protests last November, and he's sentenced to death. There are many of them in this row in Iran. And I remember that when the government sentenced him to death, we were all we got panicked, and we were checking the news on social media to understand every morning when the Friday, help me, you're coming from Muslim country, Azan.
Yeah, the call to prayer. Yes.
The call to prayer. People were waking up early morning to make sure that Amir Hossein is alive. So you see, I have the right to be scared of all those Sharia laws. And that is why we are trying to have a secular democratic country. If you really want to reduce Islamophobia, as you said, then condemn the execution under Sharia laws in Iran, condemn the lashes, condemn the Islamic Republic. Do not legitimize Islamic Republic. Do not shake hand with the Islamic Republic. Ban them from everywhere and tell them release all those innocent prisoners. That's so simple, isn't it?
I mean, in my head it is, and which brings me to the other criticism is that you that the form of your activism, in a way related to the former question, but have you had any support from institutions or groups that are not within the right-wing space of the United States? I mean, that's one of the issues that I face, in which there's more welcoming groups within the right than within the left. But because your focus is more about women's rights, etc., have you found more support within the left and the right, or is it the same situation?
I have to be honest with you. From the beginning, people in the left were hesitated to support us, and it was just from the right wing, as you mentioned. But I have to be honest, more activists and feminists from the left now, joining Iranian women's rights and condemning the Islamic Republic. I have to say that. Because
what do you think made them change? What do you think made them switch? Which messaging?
That's a very good question. I'm gonna tell you what actually changed their mind. The young activists from inside Iran and their bravery. So nobody can ignore them. I remember when I got invited from, even the member of the European Parliament sent me letters. They kept ignoring me for a while, but they sent me letters and they asked me directly how we can help Sabah Kodakshari, Yasaman Aryani, and these people who are fighting against compulsory hijab. And I was like, okay, at least you're reaching out, and this is very important. So far, none of the female politicians from European country dared to challenge the Islamic Republic on their face, removing their hijab. You know, I have to tell you that if the European countries came with a law forcing female politicians from Iran to remove their hijab, they would challenge that. They wouldn't say that this is a law, then we have to respect it. You know, they stand up for their own dignity. So this is what I want the female politicians from the West, you know, when they meet Javad Zarif, Hassan Rouhani, do not like just wear hijab and do like, it's just unbelievable. None of them are as brave as Iranian women challenging discriminatory laws, but they are now reaching out and they're trying to find a way to support Iranian women. The female politicians from Sweden, you remember when they went Iran, not only legitimizing compulsory hijab, they were shaking hand with the dictators in Iran without mentioning anything about, you know, the oppression in Iran. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. So the reason that they have changed and now they're reaching out, they want to talk about this, they want to support Iranian people, it's social media. Thanks to social media, because in mainstream media sometimes you don't see anything about people getting executed, or people are in the death row, or people get lashes because of drinking alcohol, because of removing their hijab. But through social media, people break this censorship, the power of ordinary people on social media. I'm going to give you an example. Javad Zarif and Hassan Rouhani, they came to United Nations, Washington Post welcomed them, New York Times welcomed them, CNN welcomed them, and they were talking about how great the situation of women in Iran is. And they are actually telling Kristen Amanpour that now we open the stadium for women, and Kristen Amanpour was saying, wow, that's progress. That was a big lie. But women, ordinary women, in front of the stadium, filming themselves, in the street, filming themselves, at the same time saying that this is the true face of the Islamic Republic. Do not believe what they say. And the video went viral. One of the video from ordinary women got 13 million views.
Wow.
So that shows the power of ordinary people, how they can change, bring change within the society and change the mind of some left if they are hesitated to support people.
Which, I mean, and that really brings the answer to what can ordinary people do over here, is to constantly, I mean, in a way, follow your page and follow your work, but also try their best to highlight the work of this brave and courageous women in Iran and around the Middle East that actually try to challenge that narrative. So I would want to ask a question, is there any question I missed to ask you that you would like to highlight? And after that, we will go for Q&A.
Sure. I think you asked so many good questions and challenging one. I strongly believe that everyone has a part and they can bring change if they feel responsible. And I want to say that through social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, which all are filtered in Iran, but Iranian people are smart and they know how to bypass the filtering and how to bypass the authorities and protest such oppressive regime. Support them. Do not believe the lies of Iranian regime, and do not believe what the Islamic Republic's apologists saying you on some media. Just search and find out the true information. Do not rely on fake news and believe what people inside Iran tell you by risking their lives, and support them. That would help them a lot. Do not ignore human rights. I'm going to tell you something. To me, I always say that to the Western people, if you don't fight against extremism, you don't fight against religious dictatorship, and you ignore the fight of people in the Middle East against extremism, then you have to fight it in your own land, you know, and that is very important, because to me, religious dictatorship is like coronavirus. It can infect the whole world if you don't fight against it. That's it. I strongly believe together we are stronger. That's all.
I once quoted an interview said that the Middle East is the opposite of Las Vegas. What happens in the Middle East doesn't stay in the Middle East. So that and I have actually one personal question, because that's related to my work. Is because my work is a lot about translating and making knowledge available for people in different languages. And you mentioned the word human rights, and I'm sure that there's a lot of banned content in about human rights in Farsi, but how widely available that content is in the language? Like, are there a lot of literature that people, like for example, in Iraq and some Arab countries, there's a black market for banned books. Like you see people messaging each other on Signal and Telegram and all of that stuff, sending people books. How wide is this also available in Iran, and how widely available the material about concepts like democracy and secularism and human rights? And
That's the same. That's the same. I cannot add anything else. It's the same, you know, anything that people are banned in the Middle East, in Iran, in Iraq, they know how to find out. They know how to bypass the authorities. And actually, there's a famous saying that if you, especially about women in Iran, but it can be about men and women, that if you want Iranian women not to do something, just tell them, if you want to Iranian women to do something, tell them not to do. They will definitely do it. So we are banned from everything, some books, literatures, and you will get, you know, arrested. But people, this is thanks to technology. And the government actually ban, as I said, that filtered Facebook and Twitter, and you see how they are present. That is why I actually asked Twitter and Facebook kick the supreme leader of Iran, you know, out from Twitter, because they banned people from social media, but they're using to mislead the rest of the world. No, it's the same like Iraq. People can find it out in some different.
That's amazing. So speaking of technology, we have a lot of people from all over the world, because I shared, and we'll move it now to Q&A.
Yeah. Speaking about technology, we really need Jack to be our sides. We need Facebook to be in our sides, and honestly, kick the dictators out from social media until they allow their own people to be present, to use social media freely.
I mean, that was one of the main criticisms of Jack Dorsey from Twitter, is that after the ban of Trump, they were saying, is that, okay, so you banned Trump for igniting or supporting bad ideas. Well, you have the Ayatollahs spreading bad ideas.
But it was very ironic that many people supported the ban when it happens to President Trump. And it was so funny. The same people were actually against Twitter to ban Khamenei, because there was a massive protest on social media. People were asking Twitter to ban Khamenei. And then there were some activists saying, I myself reached out some human rights organizations. I asked them, would you help me to ask Twitter and Instagram to kick Khamenei out, because they shut down internet. For 3 days, they killed more than 1,500 protesters, according to Reuters. And now this is the right time that we have to ask Twitter and social media to kick him out. You know, what was their response?
What was the response?
We are human rights organization. We are human rights activists. We cannot go after banning people. I said, wait a minute. It's like allowing ISIS to be on social media and calling for, you know, people to be, this is the same.
Absolutely, yeah.
Exactly, this is the same. So unfortunately, we are not successful to get the human rights organization united to kick Khamenei out from Twitter. We can make it.
Yeah, maybe that sounds, and this video will be posted on YouTube, and I'm sure we'll share it a lot, so more people will hear about it. I mean, actually, we are pretty much out of time. I don't know how to get the Q&A, but I mean, maybe I will, if people have a question, they can send it to you on social media or email. So can you share how can people follow you? Which websites are there any groups that you recommend you follow, etc.?
Yeah, as I said that social media is like my weapon. They kicked me out from Iran, but I have my Instagram here.
Yes.
So with more than 5 million followers, I'm not a model, I'm not an actress. So it's a platform for women inside Iran. And I'm documenting the fight of people inside Iran while they're filming themselves, and they are their own storytellers. They are brave enough. So I share their stories on my Instagram, and you can go on My Stealthy Freedom Facebook page. You can see how women actually fighting against religious dictatorship. You can go to my Twitter account, and that's it. That's it. Social media, it's not just my weapon, it's the weapon of the women who are and men who are being oppressed and censored by the Islamic Republic. And by using weapon, I have to make it clear. The government in Iran, they have guns and bullets. They execute people. They torture people to death. So we are using our mobile phone to expose their violence, to show the rest of the world how they oppressed people. So this is a non-violence movement in Iran, and people film their oppressors because they want to be heard by the rest of the world. And if you have any questions, you can send it through my social media, then I would be more than happy to answer.
Wonderful. So that's an hour very well spent talking to you, Masih. And I definitely wish you all the best, and wish that women in Iran and women everywhere in our region will be liberated away from theocrats and authoritarians. So thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope one day I'm going to invite you to Iran. You're going to invite me to Iraq. And
I would love that. That will be amazing.
Definitely.
And on that note, actually, one positive, my mom, I believe, and some of my aunts used to go to Iran for fashion shows. That was prior. So we definitely have a lot of positive memories of my family of Iran.
Definitely.
So I would love to go there one day, and hopefully we'll meet in the capital of both countries.
Definitely. This is my dream. We, the people of the Middle East, we carry the wounds of war, discrimination, oppression, but through our pain, we are so powerful, and I'm sure we're going to get rid of any kind of dictatorship. We're going to have a secular democratic country, and I'm going to invite you to my village for sure. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.